Hi everyone and welcome back to the fantasyfootballfix.com YouTube channel with me, Tom Campbell, for the final instalment of the elite team reveals for this season. We've got Dan on and we're going to be previewing Gameweek 38, guys. There are timestamps on the video if you do want to hop around, but without further ado, let's get right into it. Guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to our preview for Game Week 38. As I said, we've got Dan Bennett on the show. Dan, it's great to have you back on the show, mate. We're looking at the graph there. It looks a bit of a flat line to me, but how's the season been going for you, pal?
Hey, Tom, thanks for having me. Yes, it's plateaued, as you say. I can't. I was hoping for that top 50k, I think, last time we spoke.
Oh, yeah.
It's not happened, so hopefully I can cling on to top 100k.
Yeah, well, look, I was going to ask you, and you're absolutely right. The last time we spoke was, I think, back in Game Week 32, where our graph kicks off on the right-hand side here. You can see no chips left in play. You're around about 100k. Obviously, few games left to go in Game Week 37. We will look back at how Game Week 37's gone for you so far, Dan. But look, what's kind of, in inverted commas, gone wrong for you since 32? You were targeting that top 50k finish, which I believe is your kind of norm over the course of your stellar history. Anything stand out over the last few game weeks? Anything that you think, if I had my time over again, that would have been sensible? What's been the story?
I'm probably a little too cautious, to be honest. And I think for a lot of people, I think we've chosen the right players. They just, with the double game weeks, you target the double game week players,
Sure.
And they just play one game instead of the two. Rotation has kicked in, injuries, which happens at the end of the season. It's a tricky time, and I guess that is more managers engaged. It is harder to climb those ranks.
Yeah,
getting more and more difficult.
It is. The tools at fantasyfootballfix.com are there to help us try and improve things and try and help us get ahead of that, really stiff competition, isn't it? Goodness me. And look, I just wondered, playing into that, Dan, saying about cautious. Do you think it's still right that we do target these double game weekers? I mean, you and I have been playing this game for years. It's always the clamour. Do you think this is the first time we're starting to think, actually, it might be more sensible to target, say, teams in form, even if they do only have a single game week? Or is it still always going to be, cometh the double game week, cometh the compulsion to get them in?
Yeah, I am fixtures over form. I am a sucker for the doubles. But yeah, you might be right. Form teams, form players, we should probably take more note of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, when double game weeks come around, I'm always going to plump for them. Maybe it's trying to predict the rotation a little bit more.
Yeah. And look, I mean, well, that's it, isn't it? We're going to look at your Game Week 37 team in a second, Dan. And I mean, some of the rotation that's happened with the Man City game, for example, with them, winning the league without kicking a ball the game before, for example, was maybe a bit more difficult to predict. But I think I'm here for it as well in terms of the double game weekers. That's why we play, right? It's part of the fun, isn't it?
Yeah, I love that. I love the double game weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been a pain recently.
Yeah, they're a pain, but they're where the big swings come, aren't they? Definitely. That's what you can hope for. And look, 101,000 and change at the moment is what we've got you at right now, Dan. It's certainly nothing to be ashamed of at all, and there's still games to be played. So fingers crossed you can kick on and finish in a 5-digit number and as high up the ranks as possible. So let's take a look at how Dan set up for Game Week 37, guys, and see how his team's been doing so far. Okay, guys, so we're recording this, as always, on Sunday night. So the testimonial type atmosphere at the Etihad has just come to an end, and we've seen that game play out. And obviously, it's impacted your team, Dan, as it will have done pretty much every engaged FPL managers. I'm certain. Edison on the bench, in goal there, and Erling Haaland with the armband. It's tough to swallow. But look, a lovely Luke Shaw, 9 points at the back. Can I ask you when he came into the team, Dan?
Oh yeah, it was a while ago now.
Okay.
Yeah, I've had him for a while. He's done well. If he plays left centre back or left back, he's done well.
Yeah.
Left back attacking, left centre back, really good for bonus. Yeah, he got 8 points last week, but he was on my bench last week.
Yeah.
So yeah, really happy. Hoping he plays that Chelsea game. There could be some rotation for Man United, possibly.
Why do you say that, Dan? Do you think that's because of the FA Cup final?
I think so, yeah. So the FA Cup is the weekend after the
that's right.
Gameweek 38 matches. But also Man United and Newcastle, I think, they just need 1 point from their last 2 games.
That's right.
And they're guaranteed top 4.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, fingers crossed he plays the second game.
Yeah, I mean, and it's an interesting one looking ahead as we are to obviously Gameweek 38, guys, but also to to next season as well. The fact you mentioned Luke Shaw playing in a couple of different positions, that versatility, not necessarily something I was aware he had in the locker before this season, but Erik ten Hag seems to be pretty comfortable with him operating on that left-hand side of central defence. And he's done well, hasn't he, when he's been asked to do that?
Yeah, he's really well. Yeah, he's not been rotated as a lot of players have. So really happy with him.
How are you seeing this this Brighton Man City game playing out then, Dan? The second half of the game week, you've got 3 Brighton players here, Estupiñán, Mitoma and McAllister respectively. Ederson hopefully and captain Erling Haaland potentially coming back in. They've now won the league, as we mentioned, and it was a complete parade today with the Stars being allowed to just come, cameo appearances off the bench. Do you think those Man City players are likely to come back in?
I think they will. Pep talked about rhythm in the past. I don't think he'll want to give them too much of a rest. No. Obviously, 2 big cup finals coming up. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm hopeful they'll start against Brighton. Yeah. I've heard some talk about Pep respecting De Zerbi as well. He might want to get one over on him and beat Brighton because they've obviously had a great season. So yeah, I'm really hoping Haaland and Ederson play. But some people on FPL Twitter saying Ederson might not play again in the league this season.
Well, Taker was impressive today. I have to say, he played well. So I think it'd be unlikely that he'll usurp Ederson for the run in. But we'll see. Certainly, Guardiola's done crazier things, that's for sure. The Marcus Rashford story. Dan, bit of a tricky one this has been for owners over the past few game weeks with the injury that he picked up and then a sickness bout as well that Ten Hag informed us all of in the press conference just prior to game week 37 starting. What do you think? You think you're likely to see him play in this home game against Chelsea, bearing in mind, like you say, United only need 1 more point from across their final 2 games? Yeah,
him missing the this game, it was tough. As most of us probably were. I was waiting for late team news. Yeah. Obviously, they played Bournemouth, and I live in Bournemouth, just down the road from the Bournemouth Stadium. So, I wondered whether to go down and try and spot him coming up.
Would have been good. Yeah, would have been good.
But that was annoying. But it sounds like he was trained all week.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
that's what Ten Hag said. And just an illness, so you'd expect him to play. Yeah. Against Chelsea, so they should do well. Chelsea
you would think, right? I mean, they still have this FA Cup final game as well, and you wouldn't expect Ten Hag to want him to come back into that final, not having to played for the better part of a month, or maybe a bit more than that, would you? So, fingers crossed for him. Bruno Fernandes picked up the vice captaincy for you. Dan, in this game week. Any temptation to have given him the armband? I asked because it was certainly something that went through my mind.
There was, because we sort of knew he was going to play 180 minutes.
That's right, yeah.
Well, he hasn't played the second game yet, but we assumed so. And with Haaland, there was always a chance he was going to miss at least 1. Yeah. So it was a serious consideration. I think a few people went for it. Yeah. In the end, it's all down to the second game, but he's Mr. Consistent.
He is, right? I mean, I sort of wanted to ask you, Dan, about sort of thinking ahead already to next season in terms of, obviously we need prices to come in and new signings and what have you can be made, and it's completely speculative. But Bruno Fernandes, do you think he's going to represent value for us ongoing into next season? You've followed Man United closely since Ronaldo. He seems to have been more at home, I guess, in the Man United squad. What are your thoughts on him as an FPL asset for the second half of this season and looking ahead to next season?
Yeah, I guess he's a little bit expensive. Just looking now, 9.5. Yeah. He's on 158 points, which is not bad. No. Next season, it depends where he's going to play, I guess, and who they sign. But I like owning him, especially if he's on penalties.
Penalties is a big deal, right, with him. If you could guarantee him them in that team. And I was looking at the goal difference, right? It's not impressive, isn't it? It's kind of been built off a really, like you mentioned, Luke Shaw, David De Gea picking up the Golden Glove. It's been built off sturdy defence, right? Rather than being prolific in attack, despite Rashford's great season, especially in the first half of the season. They haven't been particularly prolific, have they?
Yeah, I'm just looking now. Yeah, so they've scored 52 goals, which is less than Brentford, Fulham.
Interesting one. So maybe not. Maybe the advice would be, macro thinking strategically until we have a bit more confidence that they're a bit more free flowing and a bit more of an attacking threat across the board. Maybe their attacking assets aren't where we'd look to invest into next season. Interesting. Dan, we've got Callum Wilson on screen here. That's a mistake. You've got Isak, haven't you? So apologies, guys, for that. But the Leicester game still to come on Monday. Leicester look in all sorts of trouble, don't they? It's dire straits for them. I'm interested though. Isak playing quite wide in the last couple of games. Was there any temptation to a throwback to the Kieran Trippier days of the first half of the season to start him, or was that not in your consideration at all?
Yeah, there was. It was a close one, and he's higher owned Trippier.
Yeah,
so it probably would have been the safe to play him.
Mm-hmm.
But I just thought Leicester, they're fighting for their lives. They do score goals. They've not been winning matches, but they do score goals. So I'm hoping Leicester can put one away, and Isak can. He has been playing wide, and I wish I had Wilson.
Yeah, no, sorry about that. That's
I
on us.
Should have gone for
that's on us. Apologies.
Week,
but interesting, and you're right. And I mean, surely Leicester have to absolutely go for it, right? Then they're not going to get anywhere with a 0-0, are they? On Monday night,
exactly.
Are they?
Which could leave some space for Isak
to exploit. Yeah, definitely. Interesting. And look, Mo Salah there, the last gasp assist for Bobby Firmino's farewell at Anfield, picking you up a nice few extra points, and disappointing return for Trent there in that game, but he's been fantastic, hasn't he? And looked so threatening recently, hasn't he?
He has. Him and Estupinan got big hauls last week.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of us got a bit fortunate because Rashford obviously missed.
Yeah, you buggers.
So, I mean, I benched Rashford, but if he was fit, I probably would have benched Estupinan, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, would have stung. I know that happened to Craig. It would have been interesting to have had Craig on the video off the back of that one.
He's been so unlucky this season.
Yeah, I know. If we do a season retrospective, guys, then it'll be interesting to get Craig's one. I might have to certificate mark that particular video suitable for adults only. But
be a great watch.
Yeah, it'll be a good watch. Dan, that's 37 so far. Look, a few games left, so let's hope those points totals increase. But let's take a look at how you're intending to be set up for Game Week 38. And then, guys, we're going to go on to some potential transfer targets ahead of 38 that you might be interested in too. Okay, so look, pretty familiar site here from what we're looking at on screen at the moment. You've got 2 transfers available, right, Dan? Looking forward into Game Week 38. Let's assume that Marcus Rashford does okay in the second half of Game Week 37, and there is no flag there. Really intrigued to see, Dan. We've got another slide in a moment to talk through some potential options, but with 2 free transfers, if people are in similar boats, or let's say they might only have one. Where's your mind at, mate? Where are you thinking of investing those 2 frees? And presumably you're not looking to throw 4 points back to the field in Game Week 38, and it will just be those 2.
No, yeah. Interesting point on the 2 free transfers that I didn't touch on in the last slide. Yeah, I was really tempted by Isak to Alvarez, and I know a lot of people did it. And he's done okay so far with 8 points. I was just looking. Those 8 points cost me 8,000 rank.
Ouch.
So that would have been a good.
Yeah.
But I did value the 2 free transfers going into this last week because there probably will be a lot of rotation, and I'm hoping for some early team news before the games.
It's going to be a funny one, isn't it, Dan? Because just thinking about it, there's not going to be heaps left to play for, right? In terms of relegation. Yes, Everton could still influence things, but Leeds look really up against it after West Ham put them to the sword today. Top 4 could be sewn up, couldn't it, through Game Week 37 as well. European places, Brighton are all but there already, goal difference notwithstanding. So I just wonder whether or not, what's your opinion? Do you think that's going to see high scoring games or the other, see it going the other way? How do you see that playing out?
I think we do tend to see high-scoring
Yeah.
games last game, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of, I don't know. Teams want to go out with a bang, playing a bit more freely, nothing, just relaxed.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I think the only apart from relegation, I think you're right. It's the Europa.
Yeah.
Some of the Europa spaces for Villa, Spurs, Brentford, possibly.
That's it. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe a Spurs punt.
Well, interesting. So you got your 2 frees then, Dan. What are you thinking? How you think? Let's say injuries clear up for Rashford, as I say. We know that Wilson's wrong, and that's Isak. Would he survive?
No. I don't think so. Even though Chelsea have been poor, they don't really score. But I'm thinking Arsenal, to be honest.
Yeah, interesting.
I know the league's gone now, obviously, but they're home to Wolves?
Yeah, home to Wolves on the last day. Yeah,
and it has been a good season for Arsenal.
Yeah,
I know they've fallen away at the end, but and the results haven't been great lately.
No.
But I still think they'll want to put on a show for the fans. Last game of the season, go out with a high. So yeah, I'm looking at possibly Jesus.
Yeah, he was very well fancied on the fantasyfootballfix.com. Predicted points ahead of 37 and inclusive of 38 as well. So the algorithm would support that suggestion. Okay, so he'd be the Isak replacement.
Yeah, but I need some cash to fund that. So it'd probably be a Trippier downgrade to possibly another Arsenal player. Yeah. Is it pronounced Keeble?
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
Playing instead of Saliba.
Yeah. And what would you actually play him ahead of Estupiñán away at Villa? I mean, Villa looked pretty impressive, didn't they, in the away match at Anfield with Watkins missing a penalty and them still scoring? Would he get it in ahead of Estupiñán or presumably not Shaw in the home game against Fulham or Trent against the relegated Southampton?
Yeah, that's a bit of a 50-50, and the decision might be taken out of my hands with rotation. Or unexpected rotation.
Or Rashford could.
Estupiñán is very attacking.
Rashford could have a bit of setback. Who knows? So that's kind of where you're leaning. Interesting. All right, cool. Well, you've mentioned Arsenal, Dan. Let's move on and take a look at some of the options. And there is also one curveball. When you and I were talking about this, you also suggested a team which wasn't at the front of my mind. But then I'm not an elite manager, so why on earth would it have been? Well, let's take a look at some of these options. Okay, guys. So Gameweek 38 potential transfers. Now, appreciated. We weren't necessarily expecting Nottingham Forest to beat Arsenal without Arsenal scoring in Gameweek 37 when we were preparing for this, but that's the Premier League. This stuff happens. Maybe we should have thought that with Forest was absolutely still in the relegation mix to a point. So, and it's their final home game. So, good on them for completing that. Doesn't necessarily mean that Arsenal aren't going to finish in style in their final home game. So, Jesus, you've already mentioned. Dan, we've got Ødegaard and Saka, respectively. Saka being a little bit quiet more recently. And then Eze from Crystal Palace as well. So let's talk about the Arsenal ones first. Dan, you've mentioned Jesus fits your team as well. Midfield-wise, if the team was set up somewhat differently, which of those two guys are you favouring? Obviously, Martinelli now we know is not going to be a factor. So where would you be leaning?
Yeah, I'm tempted by Ødegaard, or he's not on this graphic, but Trossard, as you said, Martinelli.
Yeah, he looked good, didn't he, on the weekend? Yeah.
So yeah, Ødegaard could be expected captain's performance last game of the season. Want to show the fans that they're going to go again next season. Yeah. So yeah, him or Trossard,
rather than Saka.
I'd possibly take out McAllister.
Yeah.
Or Mitoma. I'd think about that later in the week.
Interesting one. I mean, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Brighton have been so good all season, and they deservedly look like they're going to be securing that European football. I mean, Ødegaard there, the attempted assists per 90 there, that's an impressive number. I know it's just shading Saka, but over 2 attempted assists per 90 is a lovely statistic, isn't it, to see? And you'd like to think that Jesus would be on the receiving end of one or more of those, and the expected FPL points per 90, one of my favourite stats that fantasyfootballfix.com provide.
Use that a lot.
Oh yeah, definitely one of my favourite weapons as well. So yeah, they do look interesting. I mean, how confident are you that they're going to finish in style, Dan? It's disappointing, isn't it, for Arsenal fans in terms of how the season has finished for them? Like you said, still a great season. Do you think they're going to be able to to turn this around? There was talk that training was quite flat this week, and certainly the performance wasn't Herculean against Forest. You still confident though that you can see this, them resort to how they were before for that final game?
I'm not entirely confident, no. There could become some curveballs with early game week, early team news come Sunday. Yeah. And I think we will get it. I know there's a big debate about team news and whether we leaks and whether we should get it, or whether they should move the deadline. Yeah. But there could be some real curveballs. To say Salah or Haaland is rumoured not to play, just theoretically. Yeah. Then we could look at Kane, could look at Son. We'd have all this money, so.
Well, that was it. I think
Spurs might have something to play for.
I can't recall
if they want to get the Europa League.
Yeah, it's a good shout. And actually, Kane, I'm not sure whether or not it was Craig or Corey. I think it was Craig who suggested that Kane could be a terrific shout, irrespective for game week 38. If you consider that it's possibly his final game for Tottenham. I'm not saying that's a definite at all, but it's a possibility. Right, to sign off against a very porous Leeds defence. So that could be something that managers look at as well if ahead of game week 38 if they haven't already.
Yeah, when I made some transfer plans 4 or 5 weeks ago, Kane was my planned transfer in this week, but I think it was down. That was planning I would took Salah out in game week to take out to target Mahrez or someone like that, which obviously didn't materialise.
No, and it's be difficult to lose Salah ahead of the Southampton game, right? Goodness me, they've not looked any better, have they? Since they, sometimes you get the release after relegation's official, but that's not been the case for them, have they? They've looked abject with I think it's just 6 wins all season for them. So, it'd be a difficult one to advocate for selling Mo Salah. Let's talk about this Palace shout then, Dan. I was intrigued by this. We chose Eze as an option. Could have gone elsewhere, but what prompted that one, mate?
Yeah, they've got a few. They're doing well, aren't they, Palace? They've got a few options, as you say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess he's just hauled a couple of times. I'm just looking now. 16 points against Southampton, 16 points against Bournemouth. Yeah,
and Forest are just safe now, right? As well, like prior to 37, they weren't, but they are now safe. So you do wonder whether or not they might be won't be quite as sharp. And it doesn't take a lot in the Prem. If you're just off a little bit, right? It could be a change. And away from home, this has not been Forest's forte, has it? Has not been what's kept them in the league. Their away form by any stretch.
Yeah, they might. I'm sure they'll be relaxed now. They're safe.
Any way you'd find a place for him, Dan, Eze, in your team?
Yeah, definitely. I'd possibly, as I say, one of the Brighton mids out for Eze.
Like it.
I'm quite keen on that. To be honest. It feels like quite exciting. There was a time a couple of game weeks ago we were looking at Palace mids and I didn't go for one, so it'd be quite nice.
I do like it as a suggestion, especially as I say now that Nottingham Forest have their Premier League status assured. There are some other, interesting games there as well. It'd be interesting to see how Man City do in that final game. It's going to be thoughts on the FA Cup. They do have the talk of this treble. Whisper it quietly, and I'm in the company of a Man United fan, but. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. Looking down the list as well, and the Liverpool game, Trent Alexander-Arnold as well. They'll be chomping at the bit, I'm sure, to continue his good form, notwithstanding the 37 disappointing haul or disappointing return. Okay, so always ask this, Dan. But if you had to make your transfers now ahead of 38, knowing what we do, what are we looking at? Which changes would you be making?
Right now, without any knowledge of fitness or anything, it would probably be the Isak to Jesus and Trippier to Keywall. Yeah.
And hope for no Eze Hall. All right, mate.
Yeah.
Well, I love it.
We've got a full week.
Yeah, we do.
To mull over.
We do. All right.
We'll see how the second games play.
Indeed. Lots more football to come. Absolutely.
Just touch on captain as well.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Captain, especially if you're chasing ranks.
Yeah.
If you're chasing rank, the default will probably be Haaland, but I don't mind Salah. as you say.
Salah, for sure.
well.
Harry Kane as well, potentially. We're sort of thinking with that Leeds away match.
If you bring Kane in, it could be really good.
Yeah. And look, I mean, the Man United game, I mean, we talked about them not being super attacking as well, but that home game against Fulham, it will be their final home game, won't it? And it has been a good season, hasn't it? They all look all but assured of top 4, final home game, having won the League Cup, FA Cup final as well. I guess there is a chance, though, there may be some rotation as they don't want to risk any injuries ahead of that big game, because that's going to be the chance for them to influence the narrative of the treble, right? So
that's the cup game's going to be huge. The FA Cup final.
Yeah, it's interesting. So maybe that's going to be some of your decisions will be impacted by that, Dan. It will be an 11th hour transfer call, I guess, looking for those early team news leaks ahead of the 4:30 kickoffs on the final game.
It will. I'll try as soon as I've made the moves. I'll load them into Fix and
good man.
People can get no.
Yeah, all right, buddy. That's fab, and I'm sure the guys are aware. But head over to fantasyfootballfix.com and you can keep track of each of the elite managers' team and their thought ahead of their transfers as and when they're made before Game Week 38. Dan, any final thoughts ahead of Game Week 38?
No, I've really enjoyed these videos, Tom.
Yeah, cool. Well, look, I mean, thanks ever so much for giving up so much of your time this season, Dan. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've always really enjoyed having you on. A very calm sense of reason in amongst the chaos, and I'm sure it'll be another 5-digit finish for you, Dan. And then we'll kick on again next season, mate. But guys, do please get your comments down below. I'm sure Dan can come back to you during the week if you've got any questions ahead of Game Week 38. And do please smash a like on the video as well, guys. And do please subscribe to the channel as well. We will be back during the close season with lots more advice from our elite managers, along with lots of other content. I really hope you've enjoyed this series. I know that I have, and I look forward to doing it all again next season. Very best of luck ahead of Game Week 38, guys. And I'll talk to you all very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.